I don't know if you've had the same experience over the last couple of weeks, but with the start of school and just different interactions my kids are having with sports teams and what have you, there's just a lot of people that they're being introduced to and different friendships that are kind of maybe starting or blossoming, or for some, not really blossoming. And for many people that care for young people, especially parents or people that work with kids in churches or different school settings, guiding kids in relationships can feel really like a heavy weight. Sometimes it can be an incredibly dark place because we just want these kids to develop friendships and mentorships and relationships, especially with people of their own age. But what if they're not? Are friendships really that important for young people, knowing that I don't really keep in touch with any of my friends from grade school? We're going to talk about that next on the Celebrate Kids podcast.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby. Not every light is gonna guide you.
So, Dr. Kathy, making friendships is one of the most important developmental tasks for teens and tweens. That's something that a neuroscientist professor at Leiden University in the Netherlands has said. They've kind of outlined this in a 2022 research paper on the power of friendship. This is something that the Washington Post kind of recently dug up and kind of unearthed and now is talking about even more, where they're pointing out that friendship is kind of a learned skill. And as some children kind of come to age, parents should really guide their kids to help them make good friends. Now, there are a lot of things that are kind of outlined in this Washington Post piece that gives kind of helpful tips for parents. Things like defining what a friendship is and helping kids notice the kids that are around them and what interests they might have and those kind of things before they kind of jump into having friendship. Now, I struggle with this a little bit because it sounds like an adult of 30-something years is now kind of looking back at kids and kind of reverse engineering how friendship can be made. And maybe I would say kind of trying to avoid some challenges or hurt or obstacles, which I think kind of help build us with resiliency and different things like that to kind of maybe build friendships with people that we might not normally have been friends with, right? What do you think about the idea of kind of telling kids to pause and consider their surroundings and do assessments before they start making friendships?
I think this is a really important discussion because show me your friends and I will show you your future. We do become like the people we hang out with. Loneliness is not fun and it's a real dilemma and a real issue. So my gut would be that if you have confident, outgoing kids who seem to make friends wherever they go, leave that alone and make sure they're discerning well. Keep an eye on it. And are they discerning and choosing healthy people who are good for them and not bad for them? Are they representing themselves with integrity, or are they only isolating on one or two of their skills and kind of ignoring the rest of who they are? I certainly think that if a child is not able to discern who is for them and not against them, if a child doesn't know herself well enough to know how to answer questions like, tell me about yourself, or what kind of kid would you like to get to know this week, then we have to step into that. Because let's admit it, people are messy. I don't say that lightly, but people are messy. The culture is chaotic. So as an example, I was a band geek. So I still today really enjoy music. And I might ask among the first questions, are you musical? What kind of music do you enjoy? And if somebody doesn't enjoy music, we can still be friends. But I can almost guarantee you that we're not going to have the kind of rich experience as friends that I would have with somebody who also very much enjoys music.
Yeah, Dr. Kathy, I think that's kind of helpful for parents to think through because really, I think navigating friendship with the kids is kind of some of the most stressful kind of times, especially for parents when their kids are young. We just want our kids to have friends at school and have it be kind of an enjoyable experience, right? What advice would you give to parents as they kind of engage this? I know that you've written on this, you've spoken on it. What insights do you have, and where can we turn to for some kind of keys on how we can guide our kids to develop friendships?
I do enjoy speaking about and writing about friendship because, as I just said, friendship, and you said, friendship is really important. For instance, in the book, 5 to Thrive, in the belonging chapter, I list 4 categories of friendship skills that I think can be taught, and a set of questions that we can ask ourselves and our children to help determine whether or not they have a need. We can help kids choose friends wisely. We can actually help with conversation skills. One of the biggest things that has to happen in friendship is conversation. And because of the quarantine and masking and technology and allowing kids to just, text and game, I think the conversation skills are often lacking, and that's what's really intimidating. And then we can help kids figure out how to maintain a relationship and on how to resolve conflicts and also how to end a relationship when it's appropriate without hurting the person. These are not easy things even for mature adults. So I do think that we can model that. We can teach it through literature. We can teach it through Bible heroes. We can teach it in the culture as we observe good and not good friendships, I think. And here's what kids tell me. They say things to me like, Dr. Kathy, my mom and dad want to know why I haven't invited any friends over. I wish they would teach me how. Or, Dr. Kathy, my mom and dad want to know why I'm not being invited over to a friend's house. And I'm not sure anybody really does that anymore, but I'd like to be invited over, but I don't know how to make that happen. So I would like to say to the parents who are concerned, rather than asking questions about why something isn't happening, and expecting a young child to discern what's going on there, can you observe and predict what might be going on? Maybe you make a phone call to one or two people to see how your child's being perceived. Maybe it's even a Sunday school dilemma and you know the children's pastor well enough that you can make a phone call. And then maybe you help set it up. Maybe you invite a whole family over for dinner and it's your son and daughter both could have playmates from that family. And you and your husband or wife would also, have a relationship there. Maybe you have a play date at the park, et cetera. I think we can help our kids because I do think it's intimidating for many of them.
Yeah, Dr. Kathy, I think that is true. And, forgive my kind of being a dad in this moment, but sometimes when kids kind of experience this, I almost ask kind of that first question. Maybe I should have started out our conversation with this question. Really, I'm wondering, are friendships really kind of as big of a deal as this professor at Leiden University is kind of saying that it is? Do friendships really matter like to that degree in elementary school? I mean, as a dad, I'm kind of looking at this saying, you know what, in 18 years, you might know some of those people, but they're not going to be as important for you as an 18-year-old as they are now as a 5-year-old. So what does it do kind of for kids with kind of making friendships in this way? And is there something to maybe a dad kind of coming alongside and saying, oh man, I'm sorry that happened. Just rub some dirt on it and get up and kind of get going. I don't know. Is that right? Is that bad? What do you think about that a little bit?
I love you. That's so great. There's absolutely a place for that. And then there's a place to not do that. And you're not stupid. You know when to do it and when not to do it. I think your point is really interesting. And you're exactly right that the children we make friends with in the elementary and even middle school years are not going to be longtime friends for the most part. And that's not the purpose of friendship back then. I think high school, college, first job, a little bit different. But I don't even have relationships with, college roommates. I'm sure some of our listeners do. It just isn't where I chose to spend energy. Ended up, frankly, after committing my life to Christ, not having a lot in common with some of those people and choosing to kind of step away. But I do think friendship, kids who are lonely and isolated and can't relate are going to be stressed and anxious often. They're not going to fit in. They will struggle with the small groups at school, the lunchroom, the playground, the bus. Those are real issues. And so do I want us to be open to advising children on how to make friendship an easier part of their life? Absolutely. And then do we also want to make sure that they know that it isn't as big of a deal as it might be made out to be? Probably. So that they're not crushed under the weight of a friendship going bad.
There's a passage out of John 21 that I was reminded of as Dr. Kathy was talking here. It comes out of John 21, beginning at verse 15. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said, you know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt. And Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my sheep. I think this is an interesting time in the life of Peter. It's a time where Jesus kind of almost reinstates this friendship and really this trust that he has in Peter. And I know that this really isn't the context to kind of bring up what this means and what really friendship should look like. But for some reason, I was drawn to this passage because it's an interesting picture for us of how Jesus' view of friendship does not depend on Peter's ability or even acknowledgement of reciprocating friendship back to Jesus. But instead, Jesus calls Peter to a higher level of friendship and invites him into a deeper love and understanding of what it means to join Jesus kind of on this mission that he's doing for the entire world. And he's doing it through the love that Peter says that he has for his Lord. But not only for his Lord, I think really in many ways for his friend. And sometimes I wonder if that's a lesson for our kids to learn, that their identity can be so bound up in the Lord, that their friendships are simply relationships that they step into to encourage and drive an understanding of how they can bring the gospel to the world. And that we get to do that with friends. And there doesn't necessarily always need to be some kind of reciprocal nature here in mutual affection, but instead there's this joining in Jesus on his mission that really can unite people. And I think taking a step back, driving our kids to have a strong understanding of their identity in Jesus, and then looking for friends to join them in that mission, well, I wonder if that's a bright light to shine in dark places, especially when it comes to friendship. I want to thank you for listening to the Celebrate Kids podcast in our daily segment, Facing the Dark. On behalf of Dr. Kathy Cook, my name is Wayne Stender, and I'm looking forward to spending this week with you here. And we're looking forward to seeing you here again tomorrow.